Morning, guys. When you go concerts, there's always a warm-up band before the main band. So Ed Sheeran and the rest of the boys will come later. So I'm just a warm-up band. But I look at the agenda. I think you've got a really fantastic set of panels and speakers after this. I think we got Lucia from Deloitte. We have a whole bunch of guys from Ali Cloud, from Capital Land, from Changi Airport. BCG Digital Venture is here, IBM Garage is here, Tiger vSense. So the main band is coming, so I'll keep it rather short and simple because my role is to just give you a quick introduction on the thinking that we have regarding Services 4.0. So the first thing I need is the ability to move the charts. Is there a clicker here? Can someone help? Okay, so as I get to the charts, how many of you have watched Affinity Wars and the Endgame? Okay, almost everyone. So I don't have to show the whole movie before I explain this part. Because when we look at some of the shifts out there, I think it's very similar to the powers that sits in the Infinity Stones. If you have each of the stone independently, you can get great powers from technology. But if you have all six and you put it into your gauntlet, potentially you can be masters of the universe. What I mean by that is that if you look at each of the stone, it does represent a shift in what we're seeing in the industry right now. Time stone, for example, because we know that the concept of time has changed. Fast is going to be faster. The slowest will ever be is yesterday. So because of technology acceleration, the concept of time is a lot more compressed. And if you look at the concept of space, the concept of space is also compressed because everything that is default offline today will become default online, especially with the advent of 5G. So with time being compressed, it also means that the concept of power changes because tech has become an equal opportunity provider. Because so long as you're able to harness tech, we often tell the Singapore companies that, hey, bakers, long time no see. We always tell Singapore companies that you are 1 second away from your customer in Ang Mo Kio, but because of tech, you are also 1 second away from your new customer in Sao Paulo. But by the same token, the Sao Paulo company, the Brazilian company, is also 1 second away from your existing customer in Ang Mo Kio. So the concept of power is now changed because everything is hyper-connected, everything is hyper-compressed. So against the backdrop, we think that the Mind Stone is then extremely important because the concept of agile and flexible thinking is going to be extremely key in order not just to survive in today's age, but to thrive. So the agility of mind and the mastery of the Mind Stone is important. And some of you may be here yesterday where we talk about tech for good, because tech cannot be good if it's not doing something for society and providing some good for humanity. Hence, the Soul Stone is also important. And finally, it lends us to this theme for this whole Smart Nation Summit, which is digital as usual. That was announced by the Prime Minister yesterday because, like it or not, the reality today is that digital is embedded in everything that we do. So if you look at the big shifts, I kind of saw, I'm a big Marvel fan, so I kind of saw that it's related to the 6 Infinity Stones. So against these shifts, what we did was that last year, IMDA together with, we gathered about 120 thought leaders to come together to say, let's look at what are the trends out there. So these were researchers, folks from academic, from public sector, from private sector came together and they worked out this 9 trends. And I think most of you would not be unfamiliar with the trends. But let me just touch on a couple that resonates a little bit more with me. So for example, natural technology interfaces, more natural technology interfaces. Over the years, you and I know that there's been a lot of progress on the computing side. So input, computing, output. The computing side has seen a lot of progress in terms of computing capability. On the output side, we've seen quite a fair bit of development as well. But guess what? The QWERTY keyboard that was invented so long ago is still one of the main input mechanisms. The swipe that was kind of started with Apple is now also a mainstay. But moving forward, we do see that AR, VR, haptic suits, and more natural ways of interfacing with technology will become available. So that's one big trend. And if some of you are like me, a little bit geeky, in the early days, I remember when I first joined IBM in the 90s, we had to produce Word documents and there was no WYSIWYG word processing tools. So everything was done on the mainframe. So in order to get a paragraph, you have to code :P to start a paragraph, and to end the paragraph, you have to do :/P to end the paragraph. So that was the basis of early websites, but today you have codeless tools for websites like Wix as well as Squarespace. So increasingly you will find, whether it's through the cloud platforms or otherwise, that codeless development will make it a lot easier to get technology out. Cloud, we believe as well, will also continue to mature because we don't start a conversation today for any technology deployment other than the cloud deployment. Because the benefits of flexibility, scalability, and speed to market is becoming a lot more apparent. So if you look at the trends, go to our website to see the detail. The papers are there. I won't go through all the gory details, but we believe that these trends are the next layer down that will continue to impact and create opportunities and potentially challenges. So we do recognize that all this will impact across all industries. But one of the industries that will definitely be impacted that is of interest to Singapore is the services industry. Why? Because 70% plus of the Singapore industry is services oriented. A big percentage of the employment in Singapore is through services industry. And that's where the IMDA, together with industry, created the thinking around the Services 4.0 paradigm or premium as a way of helping companies shift their and use digital technologies to move towards Services 4.0. What we mean by 4.0 is quite simple in that in the early days, 1.0 is just basically very standard manual engagement with your banks, with your telcos, with your amusement parks, with your all the services that you get. 2.0 was made a little bit better because you can now go online to find out more information. It was enabled for better efficiency because of internet technology. Then the mobile technology came along, started with the Apple revolution in 2007, and you find that with the mobile technology, now you are able to do a lot more self-service. But with the introduction of AI, introduction of multi-touch point, introduction of more natural interfaces, the introduction of more data, it becomes very easy to think the possibility that will be available to companies as you move into Services 4.0. How do you get to a stage where you're a lot more seamless, a lot more end-to-end, a lot more anticipatory in terms of being able to understand what the customer needs and address the customer needs before it happens? And at the same time, a lot more empathetic to understand the emotional side of this as well. So I think all of us have seen different variations because I'm sure we deal with our banks, we deal with our telcos, and we know that some of our service providers are still in the 1.0, some are in the 2.0, some in the 3.0, and a few are starting to go into 4.0. Example that my colleague created, which I thought was the easiest to understand, was attractions. So apparently she went to Turkey, and I hope there's no one from the Turkey Tourism Board here. But on the Turkish side, you can get information about the sites you want to go, Services 2.0. And then she went to the Louvre. And you have a mobile app that allows you great information regarding the Louvre, better interaction. And she brought her kids to Disneyland. So if you go to Disneyland, apparently now you have a magic wristband that you can use it for your hotel key, for your park attraction, for your queue times, restaurant booking, almost everything. They have information about you so that they will also tell you about approximate waiting time, new routes, restaurant recommendations. So, and the new one that came out a few months ago was the new, the one in California where they have the Star Wars Galaxy Edge, where it's a fully immersed environment where you can participate and create your own stories as you participate in the theme park. Are they fully 4.0? Probably not, but there are semblances of things that they're doing. There is a lot more towards that. And then within Singapore, I'm sure some of the banks that you work with would already have, because of the data and AI that you use, the ability to engage with you, predict your needs, and to be able to give you offers and services before you potentially need them. So we think there's a lot of potential to be unlocked as more and more companies think about adopting some of the technologies to move towards Services 4.0. And that was the reason why we created the framework. Even within the government, we're trying very hard, together with GovTech, to build government services that starts with the customer end in mind, and to use technology so that we make everything a lot more seamless, a lot more flexible, a lot more end-to-end, a lot more anticipatory, a lot more empathic as well. And lastly, I'll just end off with a chart on why Singapore, because it's a pretty nice place for some of these innovations to happen. Where Singapore lacks in terms of scale, Singapore compensates in terms of having a platform for different companies, different environments to come together to create innovations, to try different things before you can potentially look at running it in scale on a global level. So Singapore is a good place for you to try your new solutions in Ang Mo Kio before you scale it into Brazil. And we think there is a number of different compositions that makes it an ideal place. And we do hope that if you're from overseas, do consider doing more in Singapore. If you're already in Singapore, please continue to do more. So with that, the warm-up band is done, and I will leave you to Ed Sheeran and Madonna and the rest of the boys. Thank you very much.